Okay guys, alright, big news. So I've just got home. I'm about to do this video for you, and you're not going to believe this, but Mr. Whippy Van has just gone past my house. It doesn't get any bigger than this. Not only that, but I actually had some coins on me. So I had a Mr. Whippy, I had it with strawberry sauce on top, I had a flake. I'm living the dream. So I'm so up for doing this video now. Anyway, on to the video. You've done this today. You probably thought you did quite well. I marked a couple of people's already, and not everyone did that well, to be honest. So you have to watch this video. You have to. Okay, so with all these questions, I'm going to try and explain any scary words that are in there and try and make it as easy as possible. But let's just do what I'd always do. I'd cross that out because it's pointless. A large rise in interest rates is most likely to lead to an increase in. Now, we know a large rise in interest rates will make AD go down. So what's likely to happen when AD is going down? Is there going to be economic growth? No, that's stupid. A firm's going to bother investing when there's no AD? No, why would they invest? But there is likely to be unemployment because there's going to be an increase in cyclical unemployment because there's less demand in the economy. Is it going to increase supply? No, because why would firms want to supply stuff if there's not enough demand? So that's the answer to the first one. Right, on to the second one. Alright, these ones, I know you hate them, I know you do, so I'm going to try and explain them as easy as I can. Fingers crossed you'll understand what I'm chatting about. Okay, so they're using lots and lots of scary words here. So they're using index numbers. Now, index numbers, we won't worry about for the minute. The kind of point of index numbers is GDP really 100? No, they make it 100 to try and make it easier to compare against other ones. And they make consumer price index 100 to make it easier to compare. Anyway, there's money national income. And money national income means GDP without inflation. Sorry, I'm taking ages to write. Without inflation taken into account. Okay, so it says, which of the following statements can be inferred from the data? Right, first of all, you need to know what's going on with each of those things. So what's happened with the population? The population has gone up by 1 million, and it started off with 20 million. So find out what percentage that's gone up. You do 1 over the 20, which is the original. So you do the difference over the original, times by 100, and that equals 5%. So the population has gone up by 5%. That's that first one. So instead of having that, I'm just going to put 5% there. Right, the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, so the prices have gone up by 10%, which you can easily see from there. And GDP at current prices, so not taking into account inflation, have gone up by 5%. So that now we know those three things, it's easy. Right, first of all, real, this word means inflation has been taken into account. Right, okay, so if inflation has been taken into account, what's happened to people's national income? Well, GDP's gone up, which means their national income's gone up. But if there is 10% inflation, in real terms, their actual GDP has gone down. So that's wrong. The second one is money, which is without GDP, without inflation taken into account. Money national income rose by 10%. Well, as you can see, it only rose by 5%. So that's stupid. Right, population grew at a faster percentage rate than prices. Well, the population grew by 5% and prices grew by 10%. That's obviously wrong. Then finally, real national income per head fell. Now this is true because look, let's go through all of them. Right, so national income without taking into account inflation increased by 5%. But then prices went up by 10%. So actually that takes us to minus 5%. Also, the population grew by 10%. So in real terms, population grew by 5%. So in real terms, actually there was a minus 10% overall, real national income per head. Now, I know that's too much. I know I've gone a wee bit too big there, but you've just got to go through these things and actually think about them a little bit more. It's actually really easy. Right, 3, this one is a little bit horrible. Now, it's so horrible, in fact, that I feel like I need to go and check, but I'm not going to because I'm better than that. Which of the following is most likely to be regarded as a supply-side cause of higher economic growth? Okay. Now, cheaper consumer spread credit would make AD go up, so we don't think it's that. Higher welfare benefits for the unemployed. Again, I would say that's an AD factor. Increased exports of goods and services. Again, that's an AD factor. Lower tax rates on income. Okay, there we are. So if there's lower tax rates on income, people have got a bigger incentive to work, therefore more people will work, which means the AS line will shift to the right. So I think it is D, and I'm pretty confident in that. Right, I just checked with my mum, and of course I'm right. So the answer is D. Right, lower tax rates on income. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that is a fiscal policy, and it is a fiscal policy. But remember, fiscal policies can be also supply side policies if the aim of them is to try and increase the supply side. So if you think lower tax rates on income, not only will that make there be an increase in demand in the economy, so it'd be the fiscal side, but also in the long run, if there's lower tax on income, what is everyone going to want to do? They're incentivized to work. Anyway, question number 4. Now, some of you will have dropped off by this point. You'll have said, "I've had enough of this guy. I don't care. I'm going to take my time. You're going to listen. It's good for you." Right. So the diagram below shows AD and short and AS. Nice. Which of the following is likely to lead to with a fall in the price level? Now, this is so easy. Now I'm going to draw 2 diagrams to make it easy for you, and I'll do one on each. Right. There's only 2 ways the price level is going to go down. Is that what it's asked me to? Yeah. The only 2 ways it can go down is if AD goes to the left, like that, or if SRAS, or supply, goes to the right, because of a reduction of firms' cost of production. So a fall in exports would make AD go to the left, so that's the right answer already. Right, an increase in government spending would make AD go to the right, so that's wrong. A fall in productivity would make the SRAS go to the other way, because it would increase the cost of production for firms. An increase in wage rates would also make the SRAS go the wrong way. So it's as easy as that. It really is. Okay, question number 5. Now, sometimes they have loads of writing. The writing is absolutely irrelevant, but let's look at it. So the foreign companies are building new factories. What's going to happen if foreign companies invest and build new factories? Now, we know, first of all, when there's investment, this is going to make AD increase. So we know it's going to cause a shift in AD. So already that's wrong because it says a movement along the AD, which is wrong. And that's wrong because it's only giving me a movement as well. So now it can be either of these two. I think if there's investment and they're making new factories, what's happening now? That means there's more capital in the UK, which means our AS line will also shift. So the answer is D. And that one's wrong. So the answer is D. Right, on to question number 6. Right, shift in AD. This is just too easy for you lot. It's embarrassing. Right. Remember, always I like to do a little arrow to make sure that I'm not going to have a shocker in the exam. So it's going to the left. So what's going to make AD shift to the left? First of all, the rate of interest is likely to have risen because that makes people want to spend less. So it's going to be between C and D. And the exchange rate, remember, just write spice next to you to help yourself. If it was spiced, that's going to make AD go down because exports are dear, so no one's going to be buying our goods. So the answer is C, because it's rise and rise, because it's a strong pound. Right, if you can't do this, it means you can't add up to 10. That's basically the concept behind this, right? Right, this whole thing is just asking you about C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So let's go through these things. So consumption has increased by 10. Then we add investment has gone up. Investment and government spending have gone up by 5. Exports have gone up by 5. But then imports, because we know it's a minus, is gone down by 10. So all we do is we add 10 plus 5, which equals 20. Then we take away 10 from 20, and the answer is A. That's what it is. The only way you could possibly get that wrong is if you add imports on top as well, because you don't understand anything. So the answer is A. Right, on to 8. Right, number 8. All we know is just the accelerator. That's just the definition, simple as that. So whenever there's an increase in national income, now sometimes in the definition I've given you, I've said AD, but it's the same difference. Whenever there's an increase in national income or AD, what do firms now want to do? They want to invest. Because, let's look at the reason why. Because look, say AD has gone from here to here. What's the problem for a firm now? They're on their maximum capacity. They can't make any more money out of them, these people, because demand is now higher than supply. So what they need to do is increase supply to try and meet it. So that's what the answer is. All the rest of them are wrong. Anyway, question number 9. Which of the following is most likely to be deflationary? Now the word deflationary just means inflation going down. So prices going down. So it's a sustained reduction in the general price level as measured by CPI. So if there's a reduction in income tax, that's going to make AD go up. So that's wrong. If there's a reduction in interest rates, that's going to make AD go up. So that's wrong. If there's a reduction in bank lending, that means people are not going to be able to borrow as much. So that's going to make AD go down. So that's the right answer. And if there's a reduction in spending on imports, that's going to make AD go up. And the reason is, it's, remember, C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So when there's a reduction in spending on imports, that actually makes AD go up. Because anyway, that's why. Question number 10, I'm getting there. Right, let's cross this off because it's rubbish. Which one of the following combinations is most likely to lead to a deterioration? Now, deterioration is a posh word for something getting worse. So if the balance of payments on the current account, we know that is just trade balance. So if the trade balance is getting worse, we know it's going to be imports are going to be higher than exports. So which one of the following is most likely to lead to imports being higher than exports? So first of all, if there was inflation, that's going to make our goods less competitive. So that's going to be bad for our exports. So we know that's one of them. So we can cross off this one, we can cross this one. The next one, all we've just got to do is write spice. So if we had a strong pound, would that be good or bad for our balance payments? Now, as you can see, it would be bad because exports would be dear, so our goods would be less competitive. So it's going to be increase and increase. So we now know the answer is C. So I can cross out this one. Let's go for the last bit. If unemployment decreased, what would UK people have? They'd have more money. If they've got more money, what could they end up buying? As well as buying domestic stuff, they might buy imports. So this would be bad for our trade balance. So the answer is C. Right, question number 11. Which of the following is an instrument of monetary policy? You just need to know this, right? Taxation is fiscal. Inflation is nothing. It's irrelevant. Government spending is fiscal. And the answer is exchange rate. Because remember, monetary policy is the base rate, the exchange rate, but you don't really need to know much about that until year 13, and also the money supply. That is what monetary policy is. Right, by the way, just have a break now. If you're just sat there and you're literally just listening to me, checking whether you got it wrong, you're wasting your time. Honestly, you're wasting your time. You need to stop, think about it properly. Please. Okay, question number 12. This is ridiculously easy, and they love these questions, so you can't get. I can't accept you getting these wrong, because they've given you two factors. One factor is going to affect the LRAS, and one factor is going to affect demand. So first of all, there's been an increase in oil prices. Now we know this is going to make a firm's cost of production go up. So if their cost of production goes up, that means they're going to supply less. So the only two options are B and C. So I can get rid of this. Oh, no, sorry. Actually, there's loads of options. So the one which is definitely wrong is this one. All the other ones are doing what I want them to do so far. But then also there's been an increase in savings, so I'll change colour. If there's an increase in savings, that's going to make AD go down. Because remember, you've got two options. You're either spending or you're saving. If you're saving, it must mean you're not spending. So that's going to make AD go down. So that one's wrong now because AD is not doing anything. This is wrong because AD is going up. So the answer is C. Right, this is a hard one, but let's go through it. So the economy is experiencing inflation, so that means prices are going up, and also it's got a balance of payments deficit on its current account. So it's importing, I always like writing this, more than it's exporting. Right. Which policy is most likely to reduce both inflation and the balance of payments deficit? Now, loads of you will put A, and you're wrong, because, right, first of all, if there's a reduction in the exchange rate, we just write WIDEC. And this is fine because this will improve our balance of payments. So we think we're right because exports are cheap, so therefore our balance of payments will get better. However, it will at the same time cause inflation because the problem is if imports are dear, what's going to cause? That's going to cause cost push inflation because raw materials from abroad will be expensive. And also it's going to cause exports are cheap, which is going to cause demand pull inflation. Demand will be higher. So it only has half the things there, so it's wrong. Right, cutting interest rates is going to make inflation go up. So that's the wrong thing again. A decrease in the rate of income tax is going to make inflation go up, so that's wrong. But let's look at D, right? If there's a fall in government spending, there are going to be two things that happen. One, there'll be a reduction in inflation because there'll be a reduction in AD because government spending is part of C plus I plus G plus X minus M. And the second bit's a bit rubbish. Right, if the government are spending less, that means AD is going down. When there's less AD in the country, it means our goods are going to become going to become more competitive, And also, it means we're less likely to buy imports, because if we're not demanding anything, then we're unlikely to want imports. I know that sounds rubbish, so let's say it again. Let's do a little diagram. As you can see, if this is the best way to explain it actually. If AD goes from there to there, AD goes down, what happens to our price level? Okay, our price level goes down, which makes our goods more competitive. If our goods are more competitive, it's going to improve our balance of payments deficit. That's the answer. Okay, moving on. Right, I didn't really like this one because I thought they were trying to just scare you with something quite easy. I've decided this means our currency is getting stronger, because before, against other countries, it was 97 according to the index, and now it's 107. So it's obviously getting more strong than other currencies. So all we write here is spice. So if the exchange rate has got stronger, is inflationary pressure going to ease? Well, imports are cheap, so that's good, and also exports are dear. So if imports are cheap, first of all, it's going to reduce cost push inflation, because raw materials will be cheaper. And if exports are dear, that's going to reduce demand pull inflation. So the answer is A, but let's keep on going. Price of imports increase, as you can see, that's wrong. The balance of payments on the current account improved. Obviously, it would make it worse, because our goods would be less competitive. And there's growth in employment in manufacturing. The thing, if its exports are really expensive, that means we're not going to be selling the exports, so therefore we're not going to need any goods, so therefore we won't need any workers. So the answer is A. Okay, this is just a posh word alert here. There's absolutely no need for them to lob in this word, but they've done it. It says it can be inferred from the data. All that means is, using the data, what can you kind of work out? That's all inferred really means. It's a posh way of saying that. So, it says the Bank of England has cut interest rates. Now we know that is an expansionary monetary policy. At the same time, they began to spend more without covering all the increases in taxes. So therefore, that's an expansionary fiscal policy. So the answer is A. There's no reason why those other ones would be right. That's very easy. The only thing that might have scared you is that word inferred. Right, next one. 16. There's nothing scary in that beginning bit. This question is just asking, which of the following combinations is most likely to result from a reduction in AD? So there's been a reduction. Okay, fine. It's just there's been a reduction in AD. What's most likely to happen if there's a reduction in AD? Now we know that if there's less AD, there is going to be unemployment is going to increase, because there'll be an increase in cyclical unemployment. So now we're between A and D. Economic growth. It's been a reduction in AD, then economic growth is obviously going to decrease. So we're still between A and D, because nothing that hasn't helped us in any way. Right, the balance of payment on the current account. Now when AD goes down, that means we're going to be buying less imports. Right, and also our goods are going to be more competitive. So therefore, exports might get better. So it's going to improve our balance payments, which is why it's D. There we are. Question number 17. Which of the following is most likely to reduce cyclical unemployment in the short run? Okay, so cyclical unemployment, as we know, is caused by too low. I'm just right. They call it demand deficient unemployment as well. Probably not spelled like that, but so cyclical unemployment. If there is cyclical unemployment, it's because there's not enough demand in the economy. So the only way to solve cyclical unemployment is to increase demand. So if we reduced our budget deficit, that means we'd be actually spending not enough. So that's going to make AD go down. That's the wrong way. If we have a reduction in our budget surplus, that means we did have loads of spare money, but now that's reducing because we're spending it. So that's obviously going to increase AD. So that's the right answer. Now, increasing the exchange rate, if you look at this, spiced, that's going to make AD go down. So that's wrong. And an increase in interest rates obviously makes AD go down. So the answer is B. Question number 18. Easy, right? Which is most likely to increase interest rate? Okay, what we're doing. Which of the following combinations is the Bank of England most likely to increase interest rates? Okay, well, fine, that makes sense. So which of these combinations is most likely to make the Bank of England need to put up interest rates? So they might have to put up interest rates if money wages are rising. Because if money wages are rising, people have got more money, and it's costing firms more to produce stuff. So if it's costing firms more to produce stuff because their cost of production has gone up, that's going to be putting prices up. So it's going to be between A and C. Right, secondly, if the exchange rate is falling, WIDEC, imports are dear, which is going to cause inflation, and exports are cheap, which is also going to cause inflation. Imports dear will cause cost push inflation, exports cheap will cause demand pull inflation. So that means the answer is C. But just to confirm, if consumer spending is rising, that's going to make AD go up, which is going to cause demand pull inflation. So that's why the answer is C. Right, question number 19. Now this one is so easy. All they've done is they've just scared you with the random lines. So, what's the most likely new long-run long-run equilibrium position if the government policy to lower the exchange rate? So first of all, to lower the exchange rate, so we just write WIDEC. So if they lower the exchange rate, imports become dear, exports become cheap. So that makes AD go up. So we know this was the line we were on before. So it starts at X, and we know we're going to go to the right. So we're now on this line. We're somewhere along that line for the minute. But then there's the second thing, and to improve the quality of labour force through retraining programmes. So if they improve the quality of labour, that makes the LRAS go that way to the right. So now we were there, and now we're moving along to the right to A. So the answer is A. Simple as that. Which of the following is most likely to result in demand-side shock to the UK economy? Now, a demand-side shock is when something happens that makes demand suddenly fly down. Now, commodity prices, that is a supply-side shock, because that would affect a firm's cost of production. So that's not right. UK wage rates, again, is a supply-side shock. UK interest rates, that is a demand-side shock, because if there's a massive rise in interest rates, suddenly there'd be a big shock, demand would go down. And then D, the price of imported manufacturing goods, again, is a supply-side shock. So the answer is C. Right, the CPI is a measure of changes in. It doesn't measure changes in what we spend our money on. It doesn't measure our average standard of living, nor does it measure effective demand for consumer goods. It just measures the average cost of living. Okay, sorry. Which of the following is most likely to reduce the level of investment in a particular economy? Right. Whenever you see a fall in the value of a currency, you just write WIDEC. Now, if there's WIDEC, that means AD will be going up. Now, whenever AD is going up, what do firms need to do to keep up with AD? They need to invest. So that's going to increase investment. So that's wrong. If there's more demand in the economy, again, that's going to increase investment. However, if there's loads of unemployment, what are the firms going to do? If no one wants goods, there's no point investing. For example, if there was loads of unemployment, it's probably the demand in the economy is probably down here. Does it make any sense when demand's that low for firms to invest to make the AS line go out here? No, it's stupid because there's not enough demand for it. It's like having it's like there being demand for 25 cars. You have a factory with 100 cars that can make 100 cars, and then suddenly go and invest in and make 150. That makes no sense when you're not using all the stuff you've got already. So the answer is C. However, if there was spare capacity, if there was a fall in the spare capacity of the economy, what are firms going to have to start doing? If there's less spare capacity, they're going to have to start thinking about investing. So that's wrong. So the answer is C. We are getting there. Right, so question number 23. Too easy. This is embarrassing. There is only one type of unemployment that has a diagram. So the answer is straight away cyclical. So cyclical is caused by a reduction in demand. Because when there's less demand for goods, therefore there's going to be less demand for workers, because demand for workers is derived from demand for goods and services. So that's the answer. Right, I'm getting there. I'm getting pretty bored now. So we've got two. Okay, so I'm feeling slightly suicidal because I've just done the last two questions and it didn't record. So I don't want to do it again. But here we go, I'm going to. Right, with this whole question, it's got loads of rubbish at the top. Don't worry about that. It says all other things being equal, a depreciation of the exchange rate is likely to. So if I just write WIDEC, because we know it's a depreciation, let's talk about the two things that are going to happen whenever it depreciates. Now you need to know this, so just stay with me on this. Right, whenever the imports are dear, what's going to happen? That's going to make lots of firms import, and it says here, import their raw materials. So if imports are dear, that means their cost of production. Oh, I can't be bothered to write it. Cost of production, in fact I'm going to give myself more room. Their cost of production is going to go up. Right, if their cost of production goes up, that means there's going to be increasing cost push inflation. Right, so that's one side of the inflation. Secondly, exports are cheap. So if exports are cheap, what's going to happen? Now we know it's C plus I plus G plus X. So if exports are cheap, AD is going to go up. Whenever demand goes up, it could cause demand pull inflation. So, this question says, what's most likely to happen? It's going to increase both. Now, it's so easy. We've already shown it causes both cost push and demand pull. So the answer is A. All the other ones are rubbish. Right, grand finale, we're done almost. Right, choosing between faster economic growth and satisfactory balance of payments best illustrates. Right, this is one of those ones you just have to just know the answer. It's the same every time. It's always to do with a conflict between competing policy objectives, because one of the main parts of economics in this side of the course is it's almost impossible to get all parts of Tiger happy at once. When you solve one, you almost always screw over another one, and that's what it is. Right, congratulations to everyone who's at the last made it to the end. Just quickly, I'm going to ask you tomorrow or on next week, what word did I say right at the end of the video? And the word I said right at the end of the video was elephant. So if someone speaks to me and says elephant, I'll know you've watched the video. Good effort.